songs when we start the show.
Yes, please sing 80s love songs to me.
So, Bambos, you had some toilet issues before you came on the show, I gathered.
Fuck you. I made a picture for you. Hey. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to another day
Of a wonderful chaos.
We've got Dana Humphrey on. We're going to discuss holding your hand when you're dying. What made that she decided to be a death doula, and what has she learned in that decision? So we're going to do that for the hour, and maybe more, possibly, on
And so much more.
A Wonderful Chaos.
So I have a really important announcement. There is an under person on social media pretending to be this guy.
An under person? What is an under person?
Another person.
Another person, yes.
Trying to be this guy.
Actually, there's 3 other people at the moment who really want to be Andy Chaliff.
They want to walk like you, talk like you, fuck like you.
I guess not. Well, at least they're writing messages to all my friends saying, "Hi, how are you?" Like they always start the same. They always start the same way.
They
Hi.
don't say, "Hey, my account got hacked and this is my new account." They don't say that.
Not that I know of. No, the message always starts out, "Hi, how are you?" And the "how are you" never has a question mark at the end. And then that's when people say, "I know it wasn't you because you use good punctuation."
Yeah, but also you never send me those kind of messages.
Anyone who knows me knows I'd say, "Fuck you. What are you doing now?" Like there's no way I would ever say,
"Hi, how are you?"
I shouldn't say that on air because now they'll hear it and then they'll start sending that.
Hi, fuck
they'll
you.
say, "Oh, this really is Andy. He's the only one that would greet me like this."
And we actually just said that to fuck with you replicas.
We're tricking you. We don't even want you to know what you can write. Yeah.
So, Andy,
Yeah.
you've prepared another uplifting week.
Yeah, I know.
hold people's hands while they die.
Yeah.
While they transition.
Yeah. I know how much you love coming on shows when we talk about things with misery.
I love misery.
Yes. I know you love misery. But before we get to misery, let's get to this. This is an exciting moment. Isn't that funny? Look at with the green screen. It has I got a
That's
published.
pretty awesome, actually.
I got a published article in the Dutch magazine.
Let's show it.
Let's just show it. Let's get it out there. That's it.
Andy made the pictures himself.
Pictures, editorial, the whole bit.
And
1,500 words.
Yeah, he walked 7 days across the west coast of Holland, where it's the only coast of Holland.
Yes.
And you can see 7 days a trip along the west coast of the Netherlands.
Yep.
With a little spell check.
With a little spell check, exactly. Did you notice that? Because that was pretty painful for me to see.
Your wife told me, and I saw like, oh.
I saw it immediately, and my stomach sort of sank. But it's a Dutch magazine. It's the 10-year anniversary, and it's the inside. What do you call it? The centerfold thing. I was really excited about that. Yeah. So, how is life for you? Are you gonna tell everyone on air how I was right yesterday or not?
Right about what?
Calling back your clients. Are you going to do mea culpa live on air?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay, I like that.
How am I? I've been. We had me and Andy talked this morning, and he's pretty much suggested that I completely let go of Holland to allow myself to ground in Cyprus when I'm there, and kind of give myself the full opportunity to experience Cyprus without having Holland influencing whatever I'll be doing there.
Yeah.
So
how has that landed when you felt into that?
I started formulating a men's circle when I'm going to go there.
Wow.
And the men's retreat. So today I spent some time developing that.
Wow.
And I feel some excitement. I spoke to a dear friend who has a beautiful house in the center of Nicosia, a really beautiful building. And she wants to be more in nature. I'm like, hey, why don't I cover one of the costs, and then you can be in nature for 3 months and see if you want to do that. And I would love to live in her house because I get a studio, it's just a beautiful building.
Wow.
And I love photographing in the area. So we planted the seeds and we'll see.
I love it, man. This is beautiful.
I notice also you energetically a little bit more slow. Second day of fasting.
Yeah. The juice fast, day one, I got cramps in the middle of the night yesterday from the kind of my stomach wanting to eat. And then I noticed that I've compensated by doing coffees today a bit, like decaffeinated. So I haven't had caffeinated, but I am doing coffees. So that's kind of kept me going emotionally, I guess, more than from the caffeine itself. And yeah, so
what a great way to juice fast and put the decaf in your body.
Yeah. At least it isn't caffeinated, you know? I mean, I've done one good thing, you know?
I don't know about that. Shall we bring Dana?
Yes, we're going to bring Dana. I think we'd say Dana. We'll ask her.
Dana or Dana?
It's Dana.
Dana.
Probably if you were born in another country, it would be Dana.
Well, like in Turkey, they say Dana. Yeah, there's a lot of countries. It's Dana, Dana, whatever. Dina. Some people say Dina. It's Dana.
Where are you right now?
I'm in New York City on the beach.
I was going to say that accent doesn't sound like it's anywhere else but the East Coast.
Oh,
and
really?
That santan does not belong to a Mediterranean country.
Yeah, I live in a special place called Rockaway near JFK. It's a peninsula, and the beach and the ocean's right here.
Oh, wow. I like the name of that place, Rockaway. I've never heard of Rockaway, but it's like it clearly has a lot of connotations that come up.
So, Dana, my first question, Andy's in his early 50s. What does he do in 30, 40 years from now when he's really letting go of this lifetime? What does he need to do?
Does he need to call a death doula?
Yeah, how does that actually work? Is it like my imagination is going, the people that might need these services are people that don't have a lot of people close to them, or they're alone in the world? Like, what
is there like what's
profile?
Like the profile of your person that might come to you?
Well, really, it's anybody who wants to add ritual back into the death process.
Oh, wow.
The dying process. So it could be someone that has a huge family. It doesn't mean whether you're alone or not doesn't mean that you need a death doula more than another. We're an advocate for the patient. So it's really when someone gets a, notification that they have like 3 to 6 months to live or 8 months to live, or they get some kind of timing, that's when they want to start thinking about talking to a death doula. When you're still, cognizant, you're still in your body, you can still have some meaningful conversations. Typically we work with people who are in hospice. So people have been given, let's say 6 months to live, and they're going to live out the rest of their time at home with a team of nurses and staff taking care of them, making sure they're comfortable and all that type of stuff. As a death doula, we don't do any medications or anything like that. We're really there to understand what the dying person's wishes are. And sometimes that changes. Like you might have an idea of what you want at your death right now. And then in 50 years, when it's actually happening, maybe your thoughts about energy and God and spirituality and religion have changed. And so maybe you don't want that plot that you bought with your wife or something. And so we're there to just kind of listen and be adaptive to whatever the person might need. And sometimes, there's aggressive family members that think something needs to happen a certain way, or, we're there to help set the tone in the room too. So when people come to visit, friends and family, like whoever's coming, instead of just rushing in and bringing all their, road rage and their stuff from the traffic and whatever, we might say, you know what, we're going to have a gratitude chair. And anybody who comes in before you go see, this person, you need to take a chill pill.
You need to check it at the door.
You need to sit in the gratitude chair and like slowly take your shoes off, like whatever, different people have different comfort levels with what that means. For someone, it might be a 10-minute meditation. For someone else, it might just be taking their socks off, and we'll take that, if that's enough slowing down for them to kind of regroup. And maybe certain people are harder for that person to be around and they want less time with them. We're their advocate to be like, all right, sis, gotta go.
Oh, that's got to be painful.
I kind of, as you were speaking, I kind of recognized if the individual does have a lot of people around them, and like normally when someone's dying, everyone is kind of crying and bringing their shit to the table.
Yeah.
In a way, I imagine that you're also navigating that.
Yeah.
And in what ways do you do that?
Yeah, so sometimes it can be holding space for the family and friends that are really distraught or upset or, sad about what's happening. Sometimes the person that's dying is, okay with it. They've come to terms with it. They have let go, and it's more about the family kind of getting into ease with that decision. Sometimes the dying person has a lot of secrets. We might be that final ear that they can share that secret with, that they've never been able to tell anyone, that will help them when they actually transition into the dying process. Medically, there's something that happens when you kind of turn into the dying process, and that can happen from anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks. So when we think about this expression, like have a good death, or like, we usually imagine a good death being like quick and painless, right? So you wouldn't wish upon your loved one like a long, drawn out, agonizing death that takes 2 weeks. So we're there to like listen to them and help them let go of some of their secrets or memories or things, so that once that dying process starts, it can actually go a little bit quicker. But yeah, sometimes it's about holding space for the family, and being there for them to let them know it's going to be okay. And it just depends on the situation.
Wow. We recently had a mutual friend of ours whose father had
ALS.
Mm-hmm.
And they were watching one of our shows that was connected to ALS while he was sick in bed.
Yeah, he had 2 days. I think he died 2 days later. Yeah.
Wow.
And then I think you mentioned that they called you.
Yeah.
And Andy kind of said, how do you want to live these last moments?
Mm.
And to bring a certain quality as opposed to just all the heaviness.
Yeah.
It was something like that, right? I'm speaking.
Yeah,
for
I think what I'm trying to recall now, since I'm on the second day of a Jews fast, everything is harder to remember, including my own name. But the thing I do remember was,
but not his humor.
No, that unfortunately is unchecked. Even it gets worse. The one thing I remember was that as people were shutting down emotionally, they were fighting amongst one another. And as that fighting, it was bleeding over into the interactions with the person who was dying. And what I was actually just hoping to do was center them around staying in connection with what the person dying is wanting, because they can fight afterwards.
Right. That's it. I mean, you were doing it. You were acting as the death doula in that moment, like, hey, yeah, we're here on behalf of this person and they don't have a lot of time left. What would support them most right now? Like, yeah, is this arguing serving anybody? Yeah, like you said, we could argue tomorrow or not, whatever, like.
Yeah, what I've noticed, because since I'm doing a lot of the mentoring and coaching work, and I don't really have any boundaries, like it goes all the way into death. And in fact, the first sentence in my book is when someone asks me what I do for a living, it says I help prepare people to die. Yeah. But it's never spoken out because I'm doing it in a business world. So I would never say that, because I would just freak them out and they wouldn't know how to deal with that. But what I've seen is this unfortunate moment is that since people are so emotionally incapable they actually regress to some of their worst behaviors in these moments, which is really sad to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
More like a survival coping mechanism.
Yeah.
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 I had something else that was really interesting from a long time ago was that when it was 18 and my mom was killed by a drunk driver. So I went and had another woman who kind of became my mom, and she then got cancer, and then she went through her own process of dying, and she had a pretty big family. So I was at that time living in Japan, and I'd fly back for, say, weeks at a time to spend time with her. And what I saw was that her death was so difficult for the family that it was really hard for them even to come into the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the one strangely spending a lot more time with her as she was transitioning.
Yeah.
And when she told me, it was really what a magical moment was that one of her sons, who I'm still close with, he would always walk not down the hallway where her room was, but he'd exit the door before he had to get closer to that room. And I remember telling her, it was really an emotional moment, I'll let him know that you knew, you know? And yeah. And that only happened a few years ago later, because it happened so long ago. And I hadn't had that contact with her. Then it hit me that I spoke to her about seeing how hard it was for him, because I knew that he would regret the time he didn't spend with her because he was just not emotionally able at that time. So yeah, that was one of those moments that I see. It's hard for people to hold the space around death because they haven't made peace with their own, of course. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I felt your emotion there.
Yeah, it was hard because when you see someone so incapable of being at peace with their pain, and you know that years from then they're going to regret not having spent that time with their mother, who they loved, of course, then you know that they'll carry that on the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I always tell people in general who haven't made peace with their parents
Yeah.
or haven't spoken to their parents for several years, if they wait too long, life will hit, and
Yeah.
that's the thing that you'll live for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dana. Why did you choose this direction in your life?
Well, it goes back a little bit to a different story. So I flew to Guatemala on March 14th of the pandemic, and I was going to live there. I was going to go on a retreat and go for 10 days. And I ended up living there for 3 months. And while I was there, I had a lot of time and space to think about how I was living my life. And I've been a marketer and a public relations person for about 15 years and have a PR firm, and I've been specializing in the pet industry. And really, marketing and public relations is about kind of telling people what problems they have in their life and what products, are out there that can solve that for them. And I really had some time to think about like how I'm spending my life force energy here on this earth and this time. And I ended up shaving my head while I was there as a commitment to myself to do light work and to not be a marketer anymore, and to really help people live their best lives. And so when I came back, a friend of mine, her name's Dr. Laura, she's a dentist. I ended up meeting up with her, and she told me she had gotten into this work, and I was immediately drawn to it. And we actually have a mutual friend who had passed away a couple of years before, and we both had kind of a connection around that death. I really believe that he came to visit me before, as he was passing. Like I knew when he passed away, and then a few hours later, I got a text, that he had passed. And So I feel in a way that I've been doing this work for a long time. I like holding space for people. That's something that's very comfortable for me. People just naturally kind of open up to me and tell me things that they maybe don't tell other people. And so I just kind of felt a natural gravitation towards this work. And, I'm glad that you guys swear in this show. I'm all about fucking your fears. And I think that death is one of the number one fears for a lot of people. And if, we can get over that and not be so afraid of it, we can live a more rich, more full life. And there was a friend of mine that passed away about 10 years ago, and we weren't that close. She wasn't a major important person in my life, but her death definitely was a beginning of a wake-up call for myself of how to live each day. And I've made a lot of changes in my life where, I literally, like, the beach is right here. I live on the beach, and I joke that I'm like in full-time paradise mode, but I really am. I really, I don't save up my time so I can take this like elaborate vacation, like for a week out of the year. Like, I try to live like my life's on vacation every single day. And I do work and I do things and I take care of myself, but I make sure to enjoy as well. And it's all kind of tied together.
Yeah. It reminds me, I did a tour through the U.S. for 3 months, and I sat with 60 groups and asked them to write a letter to a loved one as if it was going to be the last letter they'd write them. And it was an intense experience. And in a way, it did feel like I was holding space for death, because if you're going to write like it's the last one, you have to let in the feelings that you've suppressed for God knows how long. And after I got home from the trip, I said to Ronnie that, like, my interest in doing more and more business things was waning, that there was not as much curiosity in this. I've done well in it and I know how to do it. And I saw that moving and helping people transition and actual death was far more of what felt at peace for me, just because there's a spaciousness I see in myself as I see recognized as you, that is like the most beautiful time to be there for another person. Yeah. Because they're looking for anyone who doesn't try to fix it, repair it, shut down emotionally, try to create a story or a narrative so that they feel better, but just to be with them. Like, that's the gift that's hard to explain. Yeah.
I have a narrative. So you're holding space for these individuals who are dying. What kind of events happened in your own personal life where you had to make potentially peace with death in your own self in order to hold that space?
How do you learn to hold space? That's a really awesome question. The first place I can recognize holding space for myself, I guess, would be on the dance floor. I love to dance, and that's a huge part of my life. And for a very long time, I've always been able to create like a section for myself, so that I can take up a lot of space with my movement. So yeah, I'm just even thinking to like 5-6 years ago, like going to like a dance club, and the whole floor is like jam packed, and I have like a full circle around me of space. Yeah, I guess it's started for holding space for myself, and then I've been able to expand that into holding space for other people. I wouldn't say like my life is full of death. I have had deaths in my life. I love going to funerals. I've always loved going to funerals because I think it's important to feel the full range of emotions. I want to feel the highest highs. And so I feel like in order to get that, I need to feel the lowest lows. And so, yeah, I've always like, if I'm invited to a funeral, I'll definitely take that opportunity to go. And I love looking at what how different cultures celebrate death. Yeah, and all the different traditions that are there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I've often appreciated, and we haven't really discussed it on the show, is that I've got to live in a lot of places, and to experience death in different cultures gives you a real view on how things are different. Like in Japan, I was working at a high school, and the principal of that high school died, and it was really quite intense. Of course, everyone was working with this guy daily, and he had a heart attack one day and was just gone.
Wow.
And I remembered it was beautiful because they invited me in to be part of the ceremony, which was a smaller group that shared in just the mourning process. And it was a little bit uncomfortable because, of course, I was the only whitey, and it was always a bit weird. But the one thing is I saw that there was almost like a trust that you know what to do when you're in the space. And that was one of these memories that I'll hold all of my life. And the one thing I found beautiful about it, which is something that we don't do in the United States or in many other places, is this memorialization of the individual, where their picture hangs in the house. So all the people who have died that are our ancestors are all hanging in the house looking down at us all. And then there's the temple in the house, which is lit with the incense to come just to show recognition of the ancestors.
Wow. Yeah.
And there was something very grounding about that I really appreciated. And I saw that we, it comes up and then we cry and then we hide it from our friends because we don't want them to let them know how bad we're feeling. That's the other version of events. Yeah.
And I think more in the West, death is not, we don't really see death. It's like someone dies, they're taken in, they're put makeup on, they put in a casket, or they're cremated, but you don't actually get to be with that person and spend that time and really connect to what they meant to you.
You mean when they're in the state of, when they're dead?
When they're dead. Like in other countries, the dead body might even be in the house.
Oh, for some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A friend of mine recently discovered that his mom had passed away, and they kind of knew it was time. And anyway, he couldn't get into her house, so he called the police, and they busted in the door, and they took her immediately. And he has so much regret around that, like, couldn't he have just had like a few hours with her, like, and then, the process starts, like in the US, the process starts where it's like, nope, you can't have a dead body in the house. We need to like be treating it or doing whatever. And to just have that moment of like, oh, my mom's passed, and just sitting with that and being there with her. I think it's a huge part of closure that we miss out on. And, he wishes he had like broken in and called the police a few hours later, whatever, but in those moments, she could have been injured inside or whatever, you don't know what you don't know until you get in there. But it is a very rushed process where it's almost like protecting you from feeling those things, or trying to protect you from feeling those things by, let's move it along and get out of the way so we can all just get back to life. When, just, sitting in her, that's the last time, soon enough, you're going to be selling the house and getting rid of the stuff and moving on. And like, just to have that an hour, even 30, however much time, to just be with it and be with that moment.
I just had this image of how when a baby is born, they cut the umbilical really fast, like everything again, really fast. And we recently had a doula from my country, and we actually both learned that doula means slave, but in service. So she was doing birth doula, and it's also my language, so I never recognized the beauty of that word, to be of service. So tell me, when was the last time you went to ecstatic dance?
Bambos, I'm supposed to ask the absurd questions, not you.
So there's supposed to be one. There was supposed to be one next week, and it's postponed. I've been going to a dance party that's kind of an outskirt of ecstatic dance called Reboot. And that is an outdoor dance party every single week that started in McCarran Park, and now they moved it out to the piers. And it started out with amplified sound, and now they have three different channels with 3 different DJs with hundreds of headsets.
Wow.
And you can pick the green channel, the blue channel, or the red channel. And that's my new dance party. And it's been going on all through the pandemic all year. Like New Year's Eve, like we're out there, -10 degrees, dancing on the snow. Like it's been pretty awesome.
But with no masks on, I'm assuming.
So for a long time, we were socially distanced. There was ropes and hula hoops. So the hula hoops were 6 feet away from each other. So you could dance in a hula hoop, socially distanced, outside, mask required.
That's really cool, though. I love the hula hoop idea.
Yeah.
And did you ever get? No, I'm not going to ask that question. You've been in Guatemala. You've been in Guatemala.
What are you going to say, Bob? What'd you get? What?
Yeah, now I want to know.
You've been in Guatemala.
Yeah, how many ayahuasca trips did you take before you became?
That's the haven for ecstatic dance. There's a retreats called Ecstatic Awakening.
Yeah.
So I imagine, and I saw at some point you were also moving your body, like, oh, she's really sensitive to words and emotions and feelings.
I'm also sitting on my desk chair is a bouncy ball.
We should get those for you.
We should get those for me, actually.
It's pretty great. So Guatemala, beautiful place. I was living with 11 other people in a house on a lake, and we were in San Marcos, which is a 500-person town. They were very aware that we were there, and they were very afraid that we were bringing coronavirus to their town. So we were on full lockdown. Everybody was on lockdown. There was no cars. There was no anything. We were on the same lockdown as the rest of the world. And we were on a little bit of a little extra hyper lockdown because we were 12 foreigners in a house. So there was no ecstatic dance. There was no ecstatic dance while I was there.
It sounds like a Big Brother episode. You were with 12 people for 3 months. Did you know these people before you got to the house?
None of us knew each other.
How many of them did you hate?
We became a big family, and I love all of them. We had 5. So there's 12 adults. We're all working, and we had 5 bedrooms. So 12 people in 5 bedrooms. So
let's do the math. How does that work out then? Who do you sleep with? And is it the same person every night? That's the big better question.
So we switched rooms every 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you mean you rotate rooms or people?
No. Rooms and people?
Yeah.
So you didn't just find one person you liked and stay with him the whole time. You said, we're switching out.
Everybody lived with everybody, and we tried out all the different, because different rooms had different pros and cons and different, people, whatever. So,
Okay.
I like
so-
that.
So basically, like when whoever, and we cooked meals together. So whoever was cooking dinner got to pick the dinner music. And so we did have some ecstatic dances like in the kitchen. But
Were there, did you have any romance in that period?
so there was 8 women and there were 4 men. And yeah, towards the end, people were sleeping with each other, and that's
I was going to say, the ones that you weren't attracted to, you're like, God, I just need anything right now. I hate this person, but it doesn't matter.
I wouldn't say there was any hate, but towards the end, things got a little bit more messy with that. So so then half the house moved into a different house, and half the house moved into a place called Eagle's Nest, where they're notorious for ecstatic dance. They have this beautiful like deck that just you can dance over the lake. So actually my going away party was a big ecstatic dance up there. So that was pretty fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's get back to
No,
business.
I want to stay with this theme. I'm enjoying this.
We're
So-
going to change the subject, by the way.
3 months in this area, it breaks into 2 houses because at some point there's a line in the sand. You're either on this team or that team.
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Did you get to stay on the team that stayed in the house, or did you go to the team that left?
Nobody stayed in the house.
Oh, you separated into 2
We
different
left.
houses.
We
Oh, okay.
left the big house and we went up. I went up
Nice.
into the hill, into the jungle, and it became rainy season.
Uh-huh.
So
It rained.
it was once we moved out of the house and it was rainy season, I was kind of like, I think it's time to go back to New York.
Okay. That's where I wanted to get to. At what point does the excitement and the kind of, this is quirky, this is fun, this is unique, and then turn into, wow, there are creature comforts that I had there that I really want back again? Like, how long did that process take?
Well, so like we didn't have a lot of water. We had plenty of drinking water because we had to buy drinking water, but there wasn't a lot of water. So like taking a shower, taking a bath was always an adventure. We had a hot tub that there was definitely not enough water for the hot tub. So we put pillows in it and we called it the love tub. Basically I completely surrendered to the bug situation and was sleeping with spiders in addition to the 11 roommates.
Wow.
And that wasn't even an issue, like towards the end, like, yeah, there's a million bugs in our room. Yep. Good night. It's like, that was just part of it. But, we had a huge lawn and we had a lot of space. So we were able, like my office was a sleeping bag in the yard. I had a sleeping bag in the yard and I would put my laptop out there and I would, like, people knew if I was sitting there that I was working and that was my spot. Then rainy season came and we all kind of had to go inside. So imagine, someone's on the phone with their mom in Israel. Someone's like talking to their boyfriend in Argentina. I'm trying to have a business meeting. Someone's trying to build a website in Canada. There was just way too much going on in like the living room. Once the rainy season started. Yeah. And then, and so then once I moved into the more jungly house, if you boiled some water, you could throw off the power for the whole place. And then you have 8 people like, hey, what happened with the power?
Yeah, it really sounds like you guys were like really at the edge of existence at this moment in that place.
So yeah, that place was less comfortable, and we had like this weird outdoor kitchen that we shared with some volunteers who were constantly making pierogies. So like it was just,
No, we don't want to ask. We don't get it. But
what's a pierogi?
A pierogi's like a Polish gnocchi.
Oh no. Okay, continue.
Anyway,
let's cross back to you getting home. So you get home. What's the thing? Oh, sorry. If you want to continue, then I'll let you go.
so okay, I ended up meeting one of our neighbors, and he was like, came over, and he's casually like, yes, I'm like flying to New Orleans next week. And I was like, oh, you're just like flying to New Orleans next week? How are you doing that? Because up until that point, there had only been emergency flights out of the country, and we're still on lockdown. There's still, you can't even drive a tuk-tuk through town. Okay. And he's just like, yeah, I'm flying to New Orleans. He's like, oh yeah, the flights are opening back up. So I immediately called United, and I was actually able to get on my same flight that I was supposed to have coming home in March, same, no fees or anything to fly home in June. So I was like, okay, the regular flights are back on. I can take my regular flight home. I think it's time.
We're
So that,
talking March when COVID first hit.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I was on the last flight that arrived into Guatemala.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you know that you might not be able to get back, or were you thinking, oh, I'll get it?
So I was supposed to leave on March 18th. And so on March 14th, I went to hot yoga. I came home, I checked my Facebook, and I saw that Guatemala was about to close its border to North Americans. And I was like, I'm getting in. So I called the airline. I'm like, hey, can I fly right now? They're like, yeah, sure. So I went early so that I could get in. You know, if you can try to think back to those days in March, like this was like, no, I didn't have a mask yet, you know, like it was like just the beginning. Like we didn't really know. I didn't think I was going to I thought I might get stuck there for a couple days or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
but not 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't anticipate the extent for sure.
But were you happy that you got stuck there at some point?
Yeah.
Thinking this was really a treat that I wouldn't have otherwise given myself?
Yeah. I mean, the first week or so, the local people were coming and taking our blood pressure and our temperature every day. And my blood pressure was really high.
Because they're taking your blood pressure.
And you know, it's like, of course, the New Yorker in the group has the freaking high blood pressure. So once I decided I was like not sure what I was going to do. I was like, you know, do I take an emergency flight home where I'd have to get permission? I'd have to get a handwritten letter of permission from every single district that I would have had to go through to get to the airport. Like it wasn't like it was easy. You could just like, oh, I'll just fly home. I knew someone who did that, but I just didn't really, it just seemed like a lot of work. And it's winter in New York and I live by myself. So I was like, well, you know, do I really want to like pay and rush home to like go be on lockdown in my apartment by myself? Not really. So once I decided to stay, my blood pressure went down and things started getting more fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
It reminds me of this. One of my favorite films of all time was Emily. I don't know if you know that film. It's a French film.
The French one.
Yeah. And when she's getting her blood pressure taken by her dad, but the dad never touches her. So whenever the dad touches her, her heart rate shoots up because she's so excited. Then they think she's got a problem. You froze, by the way. So
I think you're in Guatemala now.
Yeah.
Guatemala Wi-Fi.
We might have lost you. We need to see if you come back.
I still have a million questions on the death part, actually.
Yeah, we're not going there, Bambus. We're over that. We're beyond death right now. Oh, that's funny. Well, we'll see if we get Dana back, because right now she's frozen. I don't know if she'd like the picture she's frozen with she's taking a sip out of her drink.
I think next Monday we have holding space.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, Monday.
Yeah,
we might want to do a show where we go back through our favorite shows, because we've done a lot of shows since we've done a review of our favorite shows. We should possibly kind of go through and pick out some of our favorite moments
and talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can also bring up some of the comments that have come in. In response to the start of the show, Bolong asks, is this the same person in open several accounts? I can't imagine that it would be someone else, Bolong.
I think they're bots, actually.
I think they're bots on Instagram, and they're just opening. And they're sending dumb messages. So I don't know. The magazine, Bolong, is called Dutch. It's the Dutch magazine. It's for expats, for people living outside of the Netherlands. And
his last question, I think, is more for Dana.
Okay.
Let's see if we can get it on. I was actually curious about when you're spending time with individuals, what are some of the, like, I remember when you did the last letter tour.
Yeah. The last letter tour.
The last letter tour.
Yes.
Actually, this book is about the tour.
Yeah, that is about tour. Sometimes you'll pick up the last letter when it's about the tour, but yes.
Thanks for pointing it out.
They're very similar.
After 270 shows. You mentioned that when you went to old people's homes and they
the old folks' homes.
And they had an opportunity to write a last letter to someone they loved.
Yeah.
They would actually write to their parents.
Yeah.
That shocked me.
It shocked me when I saw this 100-year-old couples of, they'd be writing and then they'd write to their parent as if they were the child still. That was really mind-numbing.
Hello.
We were just sharing a story. Bambos asked, when I did my tour through the U.S. and sat with the groups, I really wanted to go to a diverse groups to have this letter writing, and I really wanted to go to old folks' homes because I thought that would be an incredible place to be. And the actual last session I did was at an old folks' home in Florida, and one of the things that was really like emotionally it was emotional and kind of surprising was that the people were writing to their parents. So these people that were in their 90s, some over 100, were writing their last letters to their parents, where I would always have thought they were going to write to their kids.
Wow.
And then it dawned on me that I, often have my feelings as I get older. I still am totally grateful to, my mom and dad for what they made possible in my life. And I see that would be also something that I feel like I would write to. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
by the way, it looks like Dana might have frozen again.
Shall we freeze with you?
It's so funny. Yeah. Dana's frozen twice. We're gonna have to start singing the Frozen song because I love that song.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. And the last letter, for people that haven't read the book or don't know anything about it, when the story goes, and do you want to tell the story when you were?
No, I like you telling the story.
So Andy is in college. He does a side course on death because he was scared of death, and through that course, he realized that everything and everyone around him will at some point come to an end. And in that moment, he had a sense of urgency. He writes a letter to his mother, who was, that's the image that came to him as like, oh, wow, I don't want to lose my mother. And he just shared in his full capacity what he meant to her. He sends the letter. Mama receives it. Mama leaves a voice message on the answering machine. Back then we had answering machines, saying, Andy, I received your letter. Thank you. And I love you. And then 4 hours later, she was killed by a drunk driver. And I think the blessing of this story is actually the fact that having that sense of urgency to share with people what they mean to us and not wait for anything, actually.
Yeah.
How does that hit you? Touch you?
It touches me. Hearing someone else share the story back and allowing myself to feel it and not try to put words to it, it feels like it feels more real. It's not a story. It's actually happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons I became an avid reader of Andy's books is because at some point I sat down and I wrote last letters to my own family. And I would say this was the entry point for me to heal a very difficult relationship with my mother. And when I'm in Cyprus, I'm looking forward to sharing many, many videos because I talk to her every day, and I'm like, Mom, she's like, I can't wait for you to come. I'm like, you don't know what you're wishing for.
Yeah, exactly. You wish that now. Wait till I'm there. So Dana, my first question to you is, what's your internet provider, and how are we going to upgrade the system you're on right now?
You know, I have Verizon, and we have a tower on our roof.
Yeah, you're being radioactivized at any given moment.
Yeah.
We weren't talking about anything important, and as I already told you, we go on whether you're here or not, so it's all good.
We can talk about this subject even though we're not specialists. Have you held the hand of someone that's dying?
Yeah, my great grandmother. She was 101.
What did you take away from that moment?
I mean, I was a child, but I remember thinking like, wow, like my people live a long time. This is gonna it's gonna be a full life.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that.
You saw I added 40, 50 years to you too.
Did you?
Yeah, in the beginning of the show.
I don't know.
Oh, I said, how does Andy acquire your services 40, 50 years from now?
Yeah, Ronnie and Bambos want to always have me as a higher projection. I always try to make my projection lower because I know that I'll live with more urgency the more I think that those years are precious. If I think I've got 50 years, it's like, okay, and you can let those next 20 go because I don't live that way.
Yeah.
There's a friend of ours who was on the show, and she has a book coming out next month called Planet Grief. And she's written a few books, and
we've had her on the show twice.
And I don't know if you know about this, but I'm pretty much taking up one chapter of her new book. And
cool.
And I called her last week, and we talked about it. And then she said, "Let me read the last chapter to you." And it was really sweet. It was quite emotional, actually, because I wasn't prepared for it. I hadn't read that section. And she said, you know, and she says, in summary, I'd like to go back to the quote from Andy Chaloff, and it went something like this: "Death is ... And then that was,
so what is death?
Death is whatever you make it to be. In the end, death is the story we tell ourselves of what it is, and therefore we create it, and then we either live in fear of it, or we're happy that we have an opportunity to have been here, or whatever the ... is. It's different for every person." Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true.
And then she asked me right afterwards, "Did you actually say that?"
So I can quote you.
Yeah.
Like what really I wrote the word celebration. It's a word that I'm coaching myself to integrate in my life in general.
Yeah.
And there's a saying that most people are dying a living death because they're dying without actually living. And so whenever there are moments which are not so comfortable or I feel incapable, how do I celebrate them without being positive, but just to acknowledge that this is also part of life? Yeah. I think we spend too much time judging ourselves and not fully seeing what a silly thing it is to be in this body with 4 limbs, 10 things which move like this, and 10 toe. I haven't figured out the toe thing yet.
Yeah, our spacesuits. Our human spacesuits.
And apparently they're labeled Andy, Bambos, and Dana.
Right.
What was the question?
Oh, just the word celebration. I can imagine there was no question, but just in your profession,
how do you want to be memorialized? How do you want your death, your anything? What would you want for yourself after you die, or even while you're like your process?
Yeah. 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 Going through the death doula training definitely helped me think about, what do I want? And, and actually both of your questions are like kind of leading me to this place of, yeah, like I want to have a glitter station. I want to have a glitter station where, there's a full rainbow of glitter that you can pick from, and you can adorn yourself in some glitter if you want to. I have plenty of friends that are anti-glitter. That's fine. We'll have biodegradable glitter available also.
I was going to say
So,
that doesn't sound very environmental friendly.
Yeah.
oh yeah. No, there's biodegradable glitter. And just to not be in such a, to just celebrate this moment too, and if that might mean putting glitter on yourself, you can put some glitter on me, you can decorate the place, whatever, and it's to celebrate this moment of, our last conversation, our last goodbye, or whatever it is, that it doesn't have to be so blue.
Yeah. I'd want everyone to write, what is the dumbest thing I've ever said to you? And then I'd want other people to read it and say, how would anyone ever mourn a guy that was such an asshole?
You see yourself pretty highly, right?
That I'm not an asshole?
On the 13th of January next year is my birthday.
Hmm.
And write it down, bitch.
January 13th.
I'm a Capricorn too.
Which one are you?
January 15th.
Bam. So I've kind of shared with Andy if we're still doing the show next year, and I can see guests face cringe. We don't know if we're going to continue, but if we do, I want to celebrate my death on the show.
Cool.
And I kind of want to witness that experience.
Yeah. So an exercise that my roommates and I did in Guatemala is we all wrote our eulogy, and we dug a grave in the backyard, and when it was our turn, we would lay in it and have someone else read the eulogy.
Wow.
And
That's just awesome.
And then we had 24 hours of silence after that. And it was, my whole body's feeling chills right now. It was really powerful. It was really, really powerful. So,
what was your biggest, I don't want to say takeaway, but discovery when you say powerful?
I guess to be witnessed in, that, and to be witnessed in the declaration of what it is that, you believe you stand for and how you want to be remembered, and having an opportunity to share that and be witnessed in it, I think helps create space where it could be a possibility of living that way.
Yeah. It's almost, that would be your greatest aspirations if that were how you were remembered. Yeah. Bolalong writes something really nice. Bolalong's in South Africa.
If you're not courageous, you die so many times before your actual death.
If you're not courageous, I would have thought the opposite. If you are courageous, you die so many times before your actual death.
Oh, I think he's talking about falling back.
What do you mean?
When we don't fall forward, then you're not courageous.
Oh,
you
yeah.
die.
True.
But what you're saying is also true.
Yeah, it's the context, of course.
Yeah. And Burang asked a question earlier in the show. He says, Dana, do you sometimes get calls from people who are completely healthy but have a feeling that they're just about to die?
Ooh. Yeah, I think that there is a knowing. I think that people know.
A friend of mine, he's in Belgium right now because his grandmother has stopped eating,
Hmm.
and the whole family's worried about it. But when I heard it, I was like, oh, she's ready to let go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but
Yeah.
but he went to Belgium to support because his mother is in panic,
Sure.
and obviously they don't want her to die. But I was like, oh, she's ready to go, and
Yeah.
how. So the question is how to support that process. But
Yeah.
I didn't intervene in that way, by the way. I
But
didn't.
that's the big challenge is, and that we wanted to do a show on that. You know, do I have the right to die? Right? Like,
Right.
do I have the right to decide that I've had enough time here and I'm okay with my transition? Or does society and government and regulations get to decide for me?
Hmm.
And that's kind of a whole nother show topic. That's certainly something I'd love to take on at some point.
Write it down.
Yeah, I've already got the guest. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. The whole, especially in assisted living and things like that, when we have caretakers that's their job is to make you eat. Right. But if you've kind of made a choice and you're like you said, you're ready to go. Yeah, whose right is it to have you keep eating, and how forcefully is that going to happen, just so that you can feel more comfortable that your mother's not dying? It's really kind of fucked up.
yeah. It's amazing to me that an individual can't say how they want to transition because other people don't want to lose that individual.
Yeah.
And it's one of these really fucked up things that we still, and I think like in these ritual, we used the word at the beginning, but we didn't discuss it, where
Right.
we brought more ritual into the transition, then there's more of a process of peace because one surrenders to what the inevitable is instead of holding on to what the last remnants of a life that's exhausted and not really wanting to be there anyways.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've also had the insight where when someone is losing a loved one, especially if it's someone older, a parent, someone that they were connected to, in a way, I sometimes feel that there's a double standard of the pain. One is I'm losing someone that I love, but the other one is I'm next.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think
And
that's
that part's not always allowed to be there.
mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like the grandparents die, the parents die, and then you're like the next in line, right? Like kind of going up the like, hold on, there's no one above me anymore, you know? Like that's sort of where I sort of see myself, of course, at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bombos and I are taking, they mentioned this hiatus from the show. And we're going to do that in about 2 weeks from now.
10th of September, people. 10th of September is our last show.
And it's our last show before we go on hiatus, and we'll see what happens after that. But the thing that I found really is that in doing that show, it's 270 shows since COVID started. So we didn't do this before COVID.
Yeah.
And now there's this moment where it does feel like I'm mourning a death. And it's one of these times, and I see that I mourn the things that I let go of because I don't also I've attached to those things and they've become part of me. So to let go of them does feel like a soft death, but it is a death nonetheless.
It's called an ambiguous death.
Ambiguous loss. That was the show on Monday we did. Yeah, but that was that's the feeling, is that there is a degree. And even with Bambos today, when he was going to Cyprus, we talked, and I saw him planning. He went to Cyprus, but he was planning all this stuff in Amsterdam. And then I was encouraging him to fully live in Cyprus by not burning the bridges behind, but also not focusing here while he's there. And in a way, I feel like, and I don't know how it was for you, I feel like in focusing there, there's a loss and a pain that comes from letting go of whatever Amsterdam has meant to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ecstatic dance.
I'm sure
Yes.
you get an ecstatic dance in Cyprus.
No, I'm gonna have to create it.
Really?
Yeah, make it. Yeah, make it.
Cyprus people do not dance.
Oh, that I don't think that's true.
No, they do, but they have to leave the island, or maybe it happens very privately, or they're drunk.
Or they go like George Michael and leave forever. George Michael is the only famous Cypriot we know of that Bombos has told me so far. So
I don't know. We have to Google it.
not
Not that I care. Dana, wonderful Dana, we've come to the end of our hour.
Yes, we have.
Thank you so much for the time that we shared.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you next time I'm in. I love the name of the village. I call it a village
Rockaway.
because Rockaway. There's no way that that name, that when they made it, there was just so much imagination in it. You know. Do you know
Yeah.
where it came from? Out of curiosity.
I don't. It is a special place.
I'm gonna look it up on Google afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful
guys.
morning.
Bye.
Nice backdrop, Andy.
You like that?
No.
I had different backdrops, but I resolved myself to this one.
Okay.
I had one with a hand, but I thought that was too literal. So, Bambos, how are you today?
Well, I think when we talk about death and ambiguous loss, I've mentioned it before. When I'm with you, I'm feeling that between us.
Uh-huh. Because of the September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. I since I say goodbye to the show at that time, I don't necessarily feel it as a loss yet.
I'm not talking about the show.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about the time that we've spent.
Oh,
270 days and the hours.
270 hours. You're right. That's
a
a
little
lot
bit,
of hours.
A little bit more than hours.
Wow.
So wonderful people. We're gonna leave you now.
We're gonna leave you.
This is the end.
My only friend. The end.
Tomorrow we have. So wonderful people.
I love how you put on the damn.
It goes automatically. Learning how to take care of myself first.
Yes.
With someone.
Yes, we're going to talk about learning how to take. We've done this show a few times, but it's always nice to see how each individual has transitioned into taking care of themselves first, because societally there's so many beliefs around taking care of your kids, taking care of your husband, taking care of the work, all of the stuff outside of yourself. So we're going to have that as just another one of those types of shows. A wonderful chaos. Now we're going to say goodbye.